Burgundy suit.
Burgundy suits.
You know what's funny? My family works in textile. I cannot name you a fabric for wearing a suit. I don't know. I don't know these things.
You get like cotton, linen. You get hybrid.
Yeah, and if it's winter,
people
you
get
wool.
Silk even.
Silk
Yeah.
suits? Yeah. No.
I actually bought this jacket from Goodwill. Does not fit me whatsoever. But it looks so nice. And it was like 100% silk. It was nice. I'm trying to kind of go back to the whole 80s thing of like where it's just like oversized coats. Like 80s,
Right.
not, you know, that trend.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring that back.
That suits you. You know, you pulled off the whole
mullet
and stuff. So
yeah, those were good times.
All 80s.
Had a mohawk for a little bit. Another 80s hair.
Yeah.
Nice.
I always wanted a mohawk as a kid, and then you just stopped seeing them entirely.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. They're not a statement really anymore. Now the new weird hair is micro bangs. You know.
Oh yeah, that's a big like
hipster
Portland Oregon
thing.
type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, would you call Mark Zuckerberg's hair micro bangs also?
Oh, that's funny. I mean, kind of. Yeah, he definitely does have the micro bang look.
It's a weird thing.
Per usual, just ahead of his time, you know.
I don't think that's the reason. Somebody definitely sold him on that, but my God, it's such a weird. I don't know. Is that deliberately weird? Is that have we reached that point?
The micro bang?
I mean, well, outside of the micro bang, are we doing ironic aesthetics now where it's like, I know it looks bad. This is what I want.
I wonder if that is the case. That might be the case. I don't think I've ever really met anybody that I was able to talk to that had micro bangs. Like I've seen them in person, but I haven't been able to.
You don't really strike up conversations.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a weird thing to just like walk up to somebody and be like, hey, is this on purpose? Like what's the story?
What happened? Was that deliberate?
Did you just like get the math wrong when you
do
were
that
doing
yourself? Yeah, it's an odd trend.
Yeah.
It's an odd trend. I also like bowl cuts. I saw a really bad bowl cut in Silver Lake a couple years back. This guy, he was like basically buzzed around here. It wasn't a fade, and then just like a bowl cut that went down to here. And I thought that was gonna be like I'm outraged. It ended up just being a sneeze.
No.
Honestly, the guy looked like a toilet. That's all I could think when I was.
Oh my God.
The geometry of it was just like.
Yeah. I see what you mean. There's this artist named Oliver Tree that he's awesome. His music videos are the best. But he's made his like career out of doing like the bowl cut with like the shaved sides, and now he's added like a goatee to the piece. Like if you saw him, you're like, that's Oliver Tree. That is a person.
Wow.
Sometimes it's just part of the brand, you know?
I don't know. Hair is
hair is everything.
I don't know. But people were doing the high and tight in Berkeley, but like exaggerated. So like you would just be super short on the sides and would fade right into your beard, and then your hair.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if you were a man, woman. It would go all the way up to here, and everybody just had and it was perfectly combed and just like it was oppressive.
It was a lot.
Yeah, and I was part of that trend for a little bit. Like there was one barber on the corner of Telegraph and College? No, Telegraph and Durant. And the guy just knew every freshman needs a haircut, so I'm gonna camp out right here. Gonna give him this expensive haircut. But it's like they're freshmen, they don't know any better, and there's nowhere else to go, and that's where we all went. And yeah, then at a certain point, you hit junior year, you just don't shave or cut your hair or anything.
Yeah.
True.
Turn into a Berkeley student. Whoa.
Whoa. Look at him.
Wasn't expecting that.
That's that happened.
I guess you liked it.
that goes into Oh So Curious history.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of fun at that movie. That was fun.
Oh, that's not staying up the whole time?
Oh,
That's too bad.
that's
It's too dark. I can't see anything.
Guys, by the way, have you noticed that my image is flickering and I'm not really sure how to fix that? It
I'm
started
Oh, I see it.
flickering.
Oh,
Any tips?
yeah, that's
Maybe add some more light in the background.
I'm trying, but I did.
I know you're
it's
using a lot
because
of
I'm in-
natural light, but
No, not anymore. Like I've literally, it's all lit up now.
She's in a different room today.
Yeah, because we have some guests. See, it's so white now.
Welcome
this is
to me
blinding almost.
every week before this week. Before last week, actually. Because I got some good lighting tips.
oh yeah, that's true.
Kind of breaks. I don't know. I think we're just gonna roll with it.
I think you're
I guess
okay.
so. Guess we're just gonna roll with it.
I feel like I need to change my background. I feel like I'm cramping Dan's style.
Well, yeah, you are kind of
Well,
copying.
I love how he didn't
Yeah,
even bother. He was like, I wasn't gonna tell you to your face, but
since you brought it up.
yeah.
Let me try that.
Yeah.
What should be the theme of my background this episode? Oh,
Oh,
I already
look at
know.
that.
Hold
We
on.
just
Cramp
messed
my
everything
style?
up there.
I got it.
There we go. Fix that. Oh, who keeps doing? Okay, Max. Come on, Max.
Oh, do I get to be in two places at once? Look at that.
On it.
Oh, God. Okay. Oh, that's not supposed to be there.
It's just not.
And this is pre-show, so this is all hi.
I'll just
hi
leave
to
it.
everybody watching. Boy, let's see.
Let's just leave it.
By the way, I was gonna make this a weekly thing. So I'm a big sci-fi fan, as you guys know. So last week I brought, I think, Halo, and there was Halo, and there was another TV show that Outer Range, both sci-fi shows really. Today I just wanted to bring to your attention, if you haven't already, Severance, as you can see on the graphic.
People like Severance a lot. I watched the first episode. But have not followed up.
So that's kind of where I started, like, let's watch the first episode, see how it goes. And much like what happened with Stranger Things, I just kept watching. And oh, look at that. There you go.
Yes.
That'll
Nice.
do.
Thought we were going for themes, so
It's got, like, I think 8 or 9 episodes. It's not terribly long. I mean, they're like hour-long episodes, but the show just keeps you engaged, and it's just got this, like, weird, if you want to basically escape the world that you're living in every day, like, it truly just puts you in a different environment. And that's kind of like why I like sci-fi shows in general, because they provide you that sense of escapism, but at the same, you could kind of get lost in a different world. And even though this show, what the one weird thing about the show is, or not weird, but I've seen it before, and I feel like I've seen it more often in recently, like in Legion, they did this where they have smartphones, but then everything, like the cars and like the buildings and a lot of like everything else in production design wise, feels like it's from the 80s.
Mhm.
I've been noticing that too, especially on Apple TV stuff.
Yeah.
Partly because like The Shrink Next Door actually took place in the 80s and they were doing that, but like the color schemes and the production and the architecture and even like the fashion, some of the glasses that people are wearing, like it's just they are harkening back to a time. Well, we've been talking about this for months, but a time that is not now, because people, escapism is really the theme of let's not live in the world we're in right now. That's what we're seeing a lot of. So that's colors and stuff. Severance, though, I'm not sure if you're familiar with comedian Tig Notaro.
Oh, I am.
Oh yeah.
I love Tig Notaro. But watching Severance, all I could think was how much Adam Scott looks exactly like Tig Notaro.
Oh my gosh.
Now that you say that,
with his hair, there's memes.
That's
people,
crazy.
Look it up. People have been doing like side by side comparisons of Tig Notaro and Adam Scott. I mean, that's great. But
I see it.
If you just
Well, I was gonna say something, but never mind. I'm gonna take it back though.
What?
I was gonna say, well, I've heard some people compare me to Adam Scott.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's because like the
I
nose.
can see that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I don't see it.
I mean, we've never seen your nose.
Was that like a humble brag? Like, what was
okay.
That?
I guess. You know what? I wanted to make it about me. The conversation wasn't directed towards me, so had to put you guys back in your priorities.
Thanks, Roland. We were getting ahead of ourselves.
I try.
I was just gonna mention, Andrew, to your point.
Yeah.
I think part of why they do this, where they mix up like you got smartphones, but it looks like the 70s or the 80s. It's at least when I was watching Legion, the creator of that show, Noah Hawley, like he basically said they're doing that to kind of create this sense of this show exists out of time in a manner, like because it's so weird because you're mixing all those different worlds or time periods. You can never kind of pin down because I can't like that's what I struggle with. At one point I was like, am I supposed to react to this like it's a show taking place in the 80s or 70s or today?
That's the thing.
And then eventually you just kind of take it for like the world of the show is the world of the show. It's kind of like doing something that fantasy shows or like a space-based sci-fi show like Star Wars or Star Trek would do, but doing it with people living on Earth. But it's like a world that is not our world, if you will, like a parallel universe. And you just don't know. It doesn't line up with a specific time period. It's like a cool effect. It's psychologically plays into, I think, shows like this and Legion.
Everybody becomes a little bit of an auteur when they make those kinds of decisions. But also to your point about just cell phones, that's another one of the ways that Stranger Things charms you. It's like, they didn't have cell phones back then, and so they have to come up with these ways of communicating with each other when they don't have a phone.
I mean, luckily they have a nerd amongst the ranks, because God forbid they wouldn't have someone like that. How would they communicate?
Those walkie-talkies come in handy.
And
that's actually something I wanted to say. Like, how did Joyce call back the number and that officer just happened to be near the payphone and somewhere in Russia? I didn't buy that. Sorry.
Let's save that for the Stranger Things review. I don't want to get into that just yet.
Speaking of technology, which in portrayal of it in
By the way, John Turturro in this show is also fantastic, and of course you have why am I blanking on his name?
Christopher
Walken.
Yeah.
That's not him. Is that him?
That's Christopher Walken in the picture.
Yes, that's him. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I get my Christophers confused. Never mind that statement. No, this is a great. I highly recommend you guys. If you guys already have Apple TV, one of the best shows on there. If you don't have Apple TV Plus, then go get it, because
was that
the show
Daryl
alone
Hannah?
is worth the. Huh?
No, that wasn't her.
Who?
Daryl Hannah, Leah.
No. This is Patricia Arquette.
Oh right, that's her. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yes, her character. You will come to not like her character, which is exactly how it's meant to be. It's one of the worst, well, not the worst thing, one of the best things about the show was it has a lot of allegory and like undertones all about like the way people work and things like forced fun activities at work. You go to work at an office and they're like, oh, we're having a pizza party, and just the concept of the show itself about the severed employees. Once they walk out of the building where they work, they can't remember anything about work, and once they walk into the building, they can't remember anything about their personal lives, and so sort of like leave work at work, leave home at home, sort of taking to an extreme. There's so much like this show. This is a heady sci-fi show. Like you will walk away from every episode thinking.
So there's still commentary about
It's all
current state of
commentary.
things.
It's all
yeah.
commentary. I mean, there's even
Nice.
even in the first episode, it's like they turned this into like their major controversy at the time. It's like it's a controversial procedure. Like not everybody should get it. And it's like, oh, okay, so like we're gonna talk about things but not talk about them. Okay, it's a clever way around it, and also addressing the fact that everything in our world has become super polemic and politicized. So like it comments. It's nice. It stays out of the world we're in while still commenting on the state of culture.
And it's Apple TV Plus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool. Apple TV Plus. The Apple TV Plus is on one hell of a streak. I feel like they don't put out anything that's not good. I feel like they're trying to be what HBO. Well, I think now with HBO Max, their brand is a little more diluted because they have some, HBO has a certain standard, but with some of the Max original content that they put in, it's not quite it. And I think just the way it's HBO, you used to think every single thing they put out is the very best of the best. And now their standards are a little like uneven of late, but Apple TV Plus they don't miss the mark. I mean, until now, everything is great. So then this is one of those
Finch,
things.
By the way?
I never saw it.
Did we end up watching Finch? Anyone? Yeah.
No. Is that which?
Shocking, Andrew. I wonder why. Movie? Tom Hanks, Andrew's favorite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching some scenes from. They're starting to ramp up the marketing for Elvis, and the Tom Hanks character. I mean.
It's getting canned. People don't like it.
Oh really?
Really?
It got a huge it got a longer standing ovation than Top Gun Maverick did at Cannes, didn't it? Like I forgot how long it was.
They like the movie, but people are saying that Tom Hanks's character is super weird because he's doing an accent in the whole thing.
Well, he's supposed to be, right?
I know, but
I still don't understand why he was attached to this project. I really don't.
I really think that he's got a thing for just weaving himself into American culture and being sort of the face of America. Whoever branded him as America's dad, great job in the marketing department, but I don't buy it.
By the way, sorry, go ahead, Max.
I mean, he was set to be our next president, so who knows? No?
Tom Hanks?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, you're okay.
Oh, okay.
I see where you were going with that.
I don't.
Sorry, guys. Let's raise Andrew's blood a little bit.
That's it. That you just wanted to.
That's it.
Upset me with a statement about Tom Hanks being president. It would be a bad world.
What? I understand how you have something against his work or him as an actor, but him as a human leading your country.
You like an actor as a president?
We already had one of those.
We did.
We already had. I didn't take I don't. You know what? We're not gonna get into the politics of it all.
Okay.
We have had one of those.
We've had a president, yeah.
We've actually had two.
Two?
Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say, wasn't there?
Yep.
Well, we know the one. Who's the other one?
Ronald Reagan.
Well, Ronald Reagan.
That was the one.
Was the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the?
Trump.
I wouldn't call him an actor.
That's so tangential, because he's not really an actor.
But he made his cameos everywhere.
He had a lot of cameos. Yeah, he had a little bit of a hand in it.
City.
I mean, he had a whole show.
I don't know.
That's a reality star.
Yeah,
he's always played himself. He's never played a character. So I don't consider him a real actor.
This is true. I don't think I've ever seen him make a cameo where it isn't him being Donald Trump.
Exactly. So you can't say he's an actor.
Actually, let me look up his IMDb right now.
just to see what character his acting range.
But
he played Donald Trump in that other movie.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Reagan was a B actor, and then he was the California governor, and then he was a Republican president.
Yep. He was a radio announcer for the longest time, and he's had a career.
I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was at one point on that trajectory. It sort of got derailed.
Too, yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to. That was his ambition.
He came to my high school when he was governor. Came to visit.
I can.
Nice.
I bet his like press conferences were the highest rated press conferences like of any governor across the country.
Nice.
People were
Or
excited.
imagine if he was a governor today.
It died down after a while. Like people were like, "Really, the governor?" And then like it was just like, "Yeah, he's just
The
doing work."
governor.
That's what they called him.
No, you got
Yeah.
no, you gotta say it like Arnold would say it.
The governor.
Going.
Yeah, but it was. It was.
Yeah. Because imagine if he was the governor today, and with like live streaming being where it is today versus where it was back then. I can just imagine because like they do live stream a lot of those kind of like local, regional government meetings, town hall meetings, and like Senate sessions and whatnot. So you could just imagine Andrew Cuomo, for example, during COVID times, every press conference is everywhere on all the local networks, on YouTube. You can find it. They're streaming it. So I could just imagine and even his California the California governor today. Who's the current governor?
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom. He was streaming his stuff too. So I mean, yeah, I could have totally seen Arnold be, doing the same, and you would get a lot more viewership if he was the one talking.
It'd be a different world for sure.
What did he say to you guys at school?
He didn't say anything. We all like greeted him as he walked in, and I remember thinking like, I'm taller than the guy. It was in 10th grade. It's like, whoa, interesting.
Yeah, it's surprisingly people think that he's taller because I think just the way in movies, like they always portrayed him as being taller than I think he is in real life.
Yeah.
Same as Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is super short.
Super short.
Okay, so I have something to mention. Donald Trump has 3 roles where he's not playing himself.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yes. So
Oh, wow.
you might know him from Halloween, where he was a Forbes cover billionaire, which is basically him.
Basically
but
playing
it's
himself.
different. And then 54, I think based off of like Studio 54 or something like that, he plays VIP patron. Could also be Donald Trump, but he plays a role that is for sure not Donald Trump whatsoever. In The Little Rascals, he played Waldo's dad.
But he's still playing Trump. He's always Trump as Trump.
I'm just saying that is a role that is not Donald Trump.
The cameo, the whole idea is it's Donald Trump playing that guy. Cameos don't count as roles. Even when other actors do them, they don't count as roles.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, you can't just be a day player for your career and, come on.
We had by the way, we had Sir Ian McKellen visit our school.
Really?
It's pretty cool. Yeah. He came to talk about LGBTQ and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Obviously the assembly was packed. Everyone, because he came at like late afternoon. So normally school in England, ends at 3:40, but everyone ended up staying till like 6 p.m.
I really love that about school in England.
Obviously. What?
Because
you love the
when I was in England,
three
school
classes.
Would end at 3:15 and you're done. But because in the US it ends actually earlier. But the good thing about the UK was when I was in Manchester, you would have school start at 9 a.m. and end at like 3:15, and that was high school.
By the time I was in high school, we mixed some things up, where like Wednesdays and Thursdays were shorter days. We'd only have 3 classes, but they were each 2 hours long. You could come to school super late, and then we also had these support periods where we basically hung out.
Was sixth form, but middle school and after school, I remember we had 3 classes a day. Each of them were 100 minutes long. The break was like 15 minutes, then an hour or something like that, like lunch break. We're able to go to town. And then majority of the students would never go back for the last class, especially in summer. Like everyone would ditch that. But in sixth form, same as you, sometimes you just go to class to school for like 1 p.m. for one class, and then that's it.
No, I never had
Are you talking, you're talking about high school?
Sixth form. It would just, almost like sixth form. So it's like the school before uni, at uni.
Oh, right. You're talking about grade 11 and 10 and 11?
No. No. So in England, you can go to sixth form or college. which kind of
Oh,
prepares
okay.
you
No, I know. Yeah,
for
that's
uni.
it's so different from the American system.
It is.
I
There's no
know,
really
yeah.
equivalent of that. Yeah.
No. That's why I always get
No,
confused
yeah.
when you guys talk about high school. I'm like, okay, that's sixth form.
Well, yeah, because when I say high school in the when you say high school in the U.S., it goes till 12th grade. In England, like you finished by 11th, and then you do that before you go to university. You go to that was it 2 years? You go to somewhere else,
Yeah.
like you said before. Yeah, exactly. It's
So you
yeah.
guys are 18 when you go to uni, right?
Generally, yeah.
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 Same. Cool.
That's if you go.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I guess what some people do is they'll go to community. I was at community college for a semester, and and it's like honestly better experience in terms of like the education and you get treated like an adult because you're going to school with people who are anywhere from 18 to 70, and you have group that's why I love the show Community, because that's you do get into those study groups with people from every walk of life, and they become your real friends. And it's totally different from showing up to what everybody thinks is going to be an American Pie movie, which it is not. Spoiler alert for anybody about to go to college. It's not like that.
Well, community college is nothing like what you see on TV.
Actually, Community got it pretty right.
Well, no, I'm talking about community colleges, not the show Community.
Wait, I'm lost.
Me too, because Community got community colleges right.
Yeah, Dan, can you say that sentence again?
No, okay. So most community colleges, you're not living on campus. You're driving and you're commuting, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's not the experience that you see portrayed on television, where going to college, spring break, and all that.
Well, it's not university. Yeah, it's not a 4-year thing. A lot of community colleges are just 2 years.
Just 2 year.
And it's there for education. You don't go to community college for the culture. You go there.
No, exactly. That's what sorry. That's the point I was trying to make. I have seen some community colleges who have 4-year programs too. Yeah. So in that sense, it's almost
Sorry, I was confused. I don't know what was that.
No. I apologize. I'm whatever. Anyway, before we move on to the show proper, I just wanted to point out something. Top Gun Maverick just, right now they're just tracking the numbers, and we still have until tomorrow to figure out exactly where this lands. But $124 million, that's going to be the opening weekend for that movie. And when they count Monday into it too, that's going to be even higher. That's the highest that any Tom Cruise movie has ever debuted to at the box office.
Really?
Almost twice as much, because his previous high was, I think, one of the Mission Impossible movies that were in the 60 some odd million. So he's never, I mean, even though his movies have always made a ton of money, they've never been one of those Marvel movies that come out and make 100+ on the opening weekend, and then, because his movies always have long legs. But this one looks like it might have long legs, although with Jurassic, World Dominion coming out in a couple of weeks, that's where it might get clipped. But
so
the fact that
why
it did this
is that? Is it nostalgia? Is it genuinely good film? Are people going back to see it? Are many people going to see it for the first time? What is it?
Tom Cruise delivers. He really, even in I wasn't prepared to like Top Gun, but I did. And his acting is good. The dedication he puts into the movie and to doing his own stunts, it's the guy's all there and he wants to put on a show.
Oh, he's awesome.
And he does. I also have to mention, good on them for doing it, but right before they started Top Gun, they showed the teaser for the next Mission Impossible. So he's coming back.
Yeah.
In a big way.
There's some insane stuff. The last shot in that trailer, he's driving a motorcycle off a cliff and then basically diving with a parachute on his back. That sequence they shot for real. They had a ramp there when they shot it. They removed it in the movie for obvious reasons, but he did that multiple. It wasn't like they did it once and they were like, okay, we're good, we use what we have. They did that take multiple times. And so for him at his age, being an actor, not a stuntman, to do that multiple times.
Oh, he's a stuntman by now.
That's insane.
No, like
He's
he
a
has his like
stuntman.
license for stunt driving.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Have you guys seen?
That's going so far above and beyond what actors do.
Yeah.
Some like Miles Teller, who's also in Top Gun, he also really commits, but he like learned to play the drums for Whiplash.
Whiplash,
and was
right,
incredible
yeah.
at it. It's not the same level of dedication, but he stepped up for this one, and they all went through basic training for Navy. it was an intense role to even prepare for, just to have fun.
I saw Tom Cruise wrote the 3-month aviation plan for the actors.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen
and
him?
They had to go through like real
James...
training. Yeah.
But have you seen him jumping out of the plane with James Corden and then take him in on the?
Dude, I saw that clip like I saw the movie
funny.
on Tuesday. I found the clip on Sunday or Monday, just on YouTube. I was just looking up as much behind the scenes stuff for the movie as I could, and I found it, and it was 2 days later. It had 4 million views, and I caught it in like his first 500,000. So it was just uploaded, I think, from the show.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
it's hilarious.
I was like, what is this? And because I was like, let me click onto it, watch it for a few minutes, walk away, because it was 15 minutes long. But I just couldn't look away after the first few minutes. And James Corden is just the most. No, that was. Then I had to I was like, anybody that I could get a hold of, I was like, you got to watch this. You know what? I don't care if you watch the movie, you need to watch this clip with James Corden and Tom Cruise. That was
so good.
It was hilarious. There's the one part where it's like, oh, wait, the engine, in case the engine goes out, like engines, like how many engines do we have? Like we have one. So in case the engine goes out, okay. Just the blanks. I mean, it was, and the fact that the 2 planes they use in that piece were shown in the movie itself, like at different points in time. In fact, I don't know if they showed the L-39 in the movie itself, but they used it to train a lot of the actors for like G-forces, because they put them in that jet first before they put them in the actual F-18s for filming the movie. So they could, get a sense of what that feels like, the pulling Gs, like high Gs, like 8, 9, 10 Gs. Like they were pulling high Gs in this movie, like when they're filming.
And the whole
anyway, we'll get into that
right?
when we get into the review.
I know. Honestly, there's a lot of really good stuff to talk about today. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
I am pleasantly surprised to say, like, I thought I was going to be annoyed by everything that I watched this week. I was not. This is going to be possibly my most positive show. So
yeah.
Wow.
So glad.
Okay.
What do you want to get into the actual show at this point?
Let's do it.
Let's do
I'm
it.
down.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. So let's load up the show, and we'll be right back up and running.
Well, if you've been with us up until this point, that was the pre-show, but now it is time for Oh So Curious. Today, we are 4 curious minds. It is me, Andrew, Roland, Mags, and Dan, putting rice bowls in... Is that Vin Diesel? Vin Diesel is back on my screen. Thank you, Dan. I needed that. How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you, Andrew?
Oh,
Fabulous.
I'm fine.
It's been a great week.
Doing well.
It's been okay. Doing well. All right.
A little low on sleep. I decided to watch one episode of Stranger Things. By the time I walked over from the TV, I had finished episode 5. And if you guys know the run times of these episodes, that's a long time.
I think it happened to all of us.
The fact that there's 2 episodes left, and the 2 of them combined are over 3 hours long.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is like, I'm gonna think twice before picking up the remote and like hitting play on episode 6.
I knew I was gonna watch all of it because I wanted to come prepared. I wanted to do my job and really, know what I was talking about. But so I spread it out over the course of 2 days. And Friday night I started watching episode 1, and I was up until 2 a.m. and I was like, that was a couple episodes. And then woke up the next morning. I was like, all right, we got to finish. And I had to take breaks, but I did.
Yeah.
I got through them. It was good.
Same.
It was good. I'm glad I watched it. And apparently we got a couple more to look forward to.
Yeah.
But let's get into the actual show. Before we do, be sure to like, subscribe, follow, share, be our friend on all the things. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
Like a virus.
We're
like
like
upside down.
Yeah. Yeah. So do that. But what is happening on the show today? Who's doing the rundown? What are we?
I guess the underground rundown.
Okay.
Do you guys want me to flip or not flip a? I was gonna say flip a dice, but that doesn't make sense.
You did that to us last week.
Well, I already got the upside down with me today, so I think I'll be good.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Let's do it.
Bro. Take it away.
All right. Today we're gonna start off with some quick hits, quickest hits you've ever seen. Next up, we have our Top Gun Maverick review with Dan and Andrew. Then Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think I said that right. Yeah, Mags is on that. I know she's super excited. Stranger Things 4. Hope you guys have been watching it. We have, and let me tell you something. I have stuff to say about it. And then we have our Ray Liotta tribute. And
that's it.
Oh, I thought Dan was gonna do like another. Oh, that's it. That's
all.
That's all you get. Yeah. That's all you deserve, and
We're good.
You get it, and you say thank you.
Well, then why don't we take a look at some of them quick hits?
Some of the quick hits.
Yeah, I think Brian.
Hits.
Brian?
Quick hits today.
Brian, okay.
Let's see, where is the clip? Here it is.
Let's get some quick hits.
Hi everybody, and welcome into Oh So Curious. My name is Brian Jennings, and here are the quick hits for this week. We start off first with the new trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder. Not only did we get our first look at Russell Crowe's Zeus, Chris Hemsworth's, I'm not going to say that word, buttocks, and King Valkyrie in her battle suit. What kind of review is this? But we also got to see our first peek at Gore the God Butcher, played by Academy Award winner Christian Bale, who is returning to comic book movies for the first time since portraying Batman in the Dark Knight trilogy. He looks truly menacing, and the trailer continued to build the hype for this film. Speaking of Marvel movies, the biggest film in the world over the past few weeks has been Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And this week it surpassed 800 million at the worldwide box office, making it the highest grossing movie of the year, a title previously held by none other than the Batman. Well, now it's time for your weekly reminder of just how stupendously big and expensive. Who wrote this? Who wrote this review? This is, I don't know. All right. Stupendously big and expensive, the cast of Fast X. Oh, Jesus.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Oh, God. I'm just going to get through this, as quickly as I can. Just not going to even think about it. Okay. Yeah. How big and expensive the cast of Fast X continues to become. That's right. Family just got bigger. Yeah. As if it wasn't already big enough.
You don't turn your back on family.
This week, our favorite tank-topped preaching at the dinner table uncle, Vin Diesel, announced that Rita Moreno has joined the cast of Fast X. She'll be playing the mother of the infamous car guru Tom Toretto. And lastly, we got some really sad and unexpected news this week when we learned the legendary actor and ineffable godfella of the silver screen, Ray Liotta, passed away in his sleep while in the Dominican Republic shooting his latest film. He was 67, enjoying a resurgence in his career, and another legend gone too soon. He will surely be missed without a doubt. So those are the quick hits for this week. But before you go, I just wanted to ask you, have you seen Top Gun Maverick yet? Have you felt the need for speed? Well, our very own legend of the airwaves, a maverick in his own right, Daniyal Khan, yeah, so he definitely wrote this, did feel the need for speed. So he suited up and went for a ride on the highway to the danger zone. I do love that song. And you can see what he had to say about the Tom Cruise-led aviation spectacle. His review is out now, so be sure to check it out. Thank you for watching, everybody. And as always, I'm Brian Jennings. All the best. We'll see you next time.
So I saw Top Gun Maverick. It was my most anticipated film of the summer. Hit all the marks.
Just want to manage expectations.
It was the truly refreshing summer blockbuster of the year. It literally is a breath of fresh air. Like, I haven't seen a movie like this, and I'm kind of after watching this movie, I'm starting to feel like, man, my appetite for like Marvel movies is and like other superhero movies, DC and Marvel movies and things of the like, it's just not the same. Because I'm like, you know what, if we can get this kind of a movie and it can have that kind of a budget that those superhero movies have, and it can be this good and this refreshing and this much fun, like, why don't we get more of this? That was my biggest takeaway from this movie. Tom Cruise delivers in the scenes with Miles Teller, Jennifer Connelly, like, you got Rooster in there. It is better than the original in almost every way you can imagine. It is honestly, like I said, one of the best movies you're gonna watch this year. It is probably the best thing Tom Cruise has done in a while, and his Mission Impossible movies are pretty good, but I gotta be honest, it hit me right in the feels. I mean, for an aviation nerd, it's like a wet dream, and you're gonna be sitting there and your jaw's gonna drop a few times. I mean, look, this film, I'm right now, I'll just say this: it is the best film about aviation that has ever been made. It literally is. There's nothing that comes close. And I was lost for words at times. I watched a lot of the promo material going into it. I'm pretty sure they said that almost every sequence in the movie that you see where there's a fighter jet involved, it's all real. And there's very little CGI used across the board. It honors the original. It brings back Iceman, so you have Val Kilmer in there. And the sequence with him and Tom Cruise, it's some of the most emotional, heart-wrenching stuff in the entire movie. There's a story in the dynamic between Tom Cruise's, Pete Maverick Mitchell and Miles Teller's Goose. It's a very interesting dynamic, and it really functions as like the emotional spine of the movie, and it's fantastic. The way the whole story plays out, it's perfect. It flies by, honestly, and pun totally intended. The 2-hour runtime, you never feel it. It goes by in an instant, and the story flows really well, even when it slows down, and you have those character moments. They're poignant. This movie has heart. This movie has gravitas, and some really good, freaking awesome action. Some of the stuff that I saw, fighter jets do in this movie, I'm like, wow. And as an aviation nerd, I'm like, I didn't know they could do some of these things. And they tell you in the featurettes for behind the scenes stuff, that if you can go see that on YouTube now, that literally every maneuver that a fighter jet does in this movie, they did that for real, regardless of whether they, in the very few instances they replaced it with a CGI model or whatever, or most of the time you see the actual jet, they shot the real fighter jets doing these maneuvers. And there's some just jaw-dropping stuff in this film. I would say Top Gun Maverick, 5 stars. Go see it now.
That music got me pumped up. I don't know about you, but I didn't think, and maybe you're like me, I didn't think I had the need for speed. I didn't think I was gonna go into this sequel to a movie that originally I did not care for. That I thought, look who's back, is
Look at that.
I was
like
not
it.
prepared. I was not prepared to like this movie as much as I did. Well, Dan, how did you feel about it? Or did you say you're a fan?
Is he a
not obvious?
fan? Are you mad?
Just curious.
Is it not obvious?
I mean, I liked something explicit. We just thumbs
You know
up
what
or
I should
thumbs
do?
down.
Oh my god, this is a mess.
I was gonna say I
can't
love the
double up on
glasses
this
over
now.
your glasses.
There you go. See, now that looks
Much
look at
better.
that.
Yeah.
So much better.
Okay.
Got my F14 Tomcat behind me there.
Was not prepared for this either. Looking good, Dan. Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
You look good.
Thank you.
You're
I felt
supposed
the need for speed.
That's not what Hangman goes, oh, I am good.
I'm,
Did you even
I didn't tell
watch
you what
the
I'm supposed to
movie?
be playing.
What are you supposed to? Are you Maverick? Are you Hangman? What are you?
No, I've got my own call sign. Didn't
What's
you
your
hear
call
Brian give?
I didn't. What's your call
No?
sign?
Yeah, it's jabroni. That's what it
You're
is.
Jabroni?
Jabroni. Yeah.
Do we all have call signs now? Did you write these for everybody, or did you just come up with one for yourself?
No, I don't know what you guys would want for yours, so I just figured, just worry about mine, and you guys can. I don't know. You guys, do you want to pick one?
It's a little late for me. How about you comment and you tell us what you think our call name should be. But let's talk about the actual movie, because again, I think you were absolutely right in your review. This movie does have heart. It does have action. It's compelling on an action standpoint, and something that the first Top Gun doesn't really do. This really gives you an understanding of what needs to happen, a procedural understanding of the movie. So they tell you, this is the mission, we're training for it, this has to happen, it's really difficult, and we have to do it very quickly. And they're taking you through the drills and through understanding what has to happen and everything that could go wrong. So by the time they actually go in and do it, you know what the stakes are. And I was able to follow everything. That was great. In another completely different way, this movie has to do a lot with the idea of nostalgia and how people who loved the first one and grew up with the first one, if they're watching it now, they're looking at a classic and they're seeing Tom Cruise come to terms with his age. And that's what this movie is about. It's about looking at, your time, the time you have left, the time that's behind you, and how you reconcile what you're going to do with the rest of your life when you're getting phased out of being useful in the world. So there's a reason for the on-screen romance. There's a reason for everything that happens, and we're rooting for them the entire time. Was there anything that you didn't cover in your review that you want to bring up? Something that really touched you, something that you really resonated with you?
Sorry, I keep looking at myself and it's making me crack up. No, I had so much fun with this movie. I think I told you guys before we started the segment that basically right when I walked into the movie as the opening credits were rolling, and I think it must have been pretty early because I still saw Tom Cruise's name up on the screen. So, and I'm guessing he got top billing, right? So I walked in, you're hearing the Top Gun soundtrack, and it's just you see the whole montage, like similar to what they did in the original, basically the same thing that they did in the first film.
Yeah.
Except instead of the F-14 Tomcats that one of those you see behind me, they got the F-18s, which is because the F-18s are the ones that are in service today. The F-14s for the most part have been retired, although they bring one back in later in the movie. And then it rolls into the Kenny Loggins Highway to the Danger Zone.
Yeah.
That to me was that first few minutes of that was like, you know what? I've had my fill. Everything from here, bonus. Like,
and there are a lot of scenes. There are a lot of scenes that sort of echo what happens in the first. You have Rooster at the piano singing the exact same songs that Goose sang.
Some critics said that wasn't exactly that was like a cheap.
It was
callback,
cheap in the first
but I was
one too.
like,
There were so many callbacks in this movie.
But I think a lot of those callbacks, like a lot of movies do that just for the cheap pop. But this movie, like, found a way to make that fit into the story, because you see that scene, and you see how it affects Tom, like, Mitchell, Pete Maverick Mitchell.
Yes, there's a reason for it. There's
outside the bar.
It's
I'm like, it hits him hard. I mean, I just love the fact. Like, remember I told you last week before you saw the movie that some of the cynicism that you had was warranted given how the first movie, it's peak 1980s, peak mid 80s. And it comes with all the cheese and everything that the 80s were all about. Whereas this movie has this sense of, like, it's aware of itself in a certain way, and it's you can, and then that one scene was an example of talking about, like you mentioned, you're just showing this older person who's sort of in a weird place in his life, and he's reminiscing about what he's done wrong, what he's done right. There's a big whole father-son dynamic that goes on throughout this movie. And they found a way to add gravitas to a story that was very much, all about the adrenaline and, some would call it toxic masculinity that the original Top Gun was made of. And this movie took a lot of that and said, okay, we're going to give these characters a lot more depth. We're going to give these characters a lot more to work with in terms of story. I think Tom Cruise had a lot more acting to do in this movie.
That's for
Despite
sure.
that, you would say there was a lot of acting he did in the first movie, but there was just a lot more character beats. And I think as this movie somehow managed to be the perfect character study that I've not seen Tom Cruise do ever before, while at the same time being one of his best action movies that he's ever done. And that was, I wasn't expecting that balance.
I was impressed, and I was thrilled, and I'm not an aviation nerd, but I will say, like, I was interested and I was impressed, and the sounds and just really, like, to see it in theaters is really the right way to see this, because it's an experience. And I really like this trend of giving people a real reason to go back to a theater and experience the whole cinematic experience. It was great. It was really, really good. And I almost say that reluctantly, because the first one made me super uncomfortable.
What? Wait, the first one made you oh yeah, I remember you saying, like, you felt weird.
I felt weird, yeah. Because
why would you say you felt weird?
Well, if you watch my review, and you can still watch it, there is this secondary narrative that Quentin Tarantino points out in the movie Sleep With Me, where there's just a lot of innuendo through the whole movie. And I was actually going into this thinking, are they going to follow this up with similar innuendo? And they did, but almost in a way where they were just doing it for nostalgia, for people like me who are like, are they going to do it? And they did. They got shots where, just the framing and what's on screen is odd. The football scene, two footballs and two teams of, shirtless men on the beach.
I mean, you know why they did that, right? That one was because Tom Cruise wanted to show just how good a shape he's in still at this age.
That was also a reason for it.
Which is a little bit unfair if you think about it. I mean, none of us are anywhere close to that age, but I just, you just look at that and you're like, hey, most of us half his age are not in the kind of shape that he is in.
It is right? Insane that how old is he? He's in his 50s?
I think he's about to turn 60.
So
I don't.
Yeah, it's
it was exactly to make you guys feel bad.
I feel fine.
Your ego didn't hurt.
I feel okay. Yeah, I don't know what more we can really say about it. Like, this one did have a plot. This one does have heart. There's even a little bit of patriotism in it. You're actually rooting for good guys, which is also something that, like you said, in a Marvel movie, everything's so gray and you never know who's going to, double cross you. But even like the whole plot with Hangman, where he's his own type of maverick and he thinks that he's the best. and they call him Hangman because he's there to hang you out to dry when the going gets rough. The fact that even this peripheral character has his own issues, and he ends up saving the day and saving these two guys deliberately, it shows this whole arc, this whole character arc that you aren't even paying attention to, because he really just sort of serves as the updated Val Kilmer character in this movie until
It
the
literally
end, where
that's
it's like,
that's what it was.
yeah,
And I don't think they tried to hide that either, which
not
I'm
at
fine
all.
with. I mean,
Not at all.
because well, that's the thing. I think one thing that's underrated about this, I said thing like 5 times there, but one element of this story or this film that is underrated, that a lot of people won't necessarily notice, I mean, unless you watch it multiple times. And granted, I've only seen the movie once, but I guess I've just, spent a lot more time trying to digest it. This movie does a really good job of not focusing on just like 1 or 2 people, which I felt like the original movie was so dominated by Tom Cruise's presence. And it's not to say that this one isn't, but it's I felt like a lot of the supporting characters in the original movie didn't have complete character arcs.
They were mannequins.
They were just caricatures almost, stereotypes almost. Whereas in this movie, you saw that a lot of supporting cast gets something to do, and not just for parts of the movie, but their character arcs like have a good beginning, middle, and end, and you see them progress and grow throughout the film. And it's, I mean, Val Kilmer's character had something like that in the first movie, Iceman.
Yes.
But in this movie, you see that from a number of those supporting characters. Even Bob, like Louis Pullman plays him. I think he's the son of Bill Pullman, the president from Independence Day. Even he, like, you can see that there's enough story behind it, beyond just the, somebody who just gets dragged on.
There's growth. We see growth and mature, even in Tom Cruise's character. Like, and maybe that's to your point about the Marvel stuff. Is like I don't really see a whole lot of growth. I guess in Spider-Man, the latest Spider-Man, I saw some growth because he has to put part of his life
to do that
it.
in 1 out of the 3 movies of the trilogy, and the last one, I'm like, a lot of the character growth, A, it should be happening across the entire trilogy, and B, it should be happening especially so in the first couple of movies, where it just felt like those were like TV episodes in the middle of a season, like Monster of the Week episodes, and not the big character growth episodes that the season premiere and finale and mid-season premiere finales are. And that's what I meant when I said, like, this is in my review, I mentioned that my appetite for those kind of like super, like, especially what we've been getting of late from Marvel and even to some degree DC, those movies don't quite hit you the same way, because they give you the sense of escapism, over the top CGI, VFX, and even practical VFX, but you feel that they're light on heart. And I keep using the word gravitas. And
yes, and to your point, I think the reason I really like this is because we don't normally see the theme of growth and change and things not being the same forever. And maybe to contrast it to the first movie, where it's like the 80s, and anybody who lived through the 80s is like, it's still the 80s. We love the 80s, always the 80s. But this movie was about the truth of time and facing the fact that, like, you're older, your time is passing you by, and you have to adapt. Because even Tom Cruise, his character is he's just been captain for the last 40 years, and that's it. And
I mean, he's purposely avoided getting a promotion because he doesn't want to stop flying. So it's well,
I'm trying hard to just have a serious talk with you, jabroni. All right, well,
let's just go with jabroni. Jabroni.
All right, jabroni. Well, you wanna put a capstone on this? Sign us out.
I just, before we finish up, I do want to mention the scene with Val Kilmer, like, literally almost, like, I don't want to say killed me, but it almost brought me to tears. Like, that was really poignant. I think that was one of those, especially if you know, like, what Val Kilmer has been going through in real life over the last few years, right? And regardless of whether, he's an actor playing a character, he's I think he's had throat cancer. I'm pretty sure They didn't even like say, oh, he's got some other. They were like, yeah, this is. They addressed it in the movie. Obviously, you know, the keys in the movie, he's still playing a character, not himself. But that whole scene was very. It was, if you're a fan of the original movie, and then of course you follow the careers of those two actors, and then you see just the. I almost wish that we get a movie now that sort of lives in the middle of the original Top Gun and this one, so we can see what their
I don't even know
relationship,
how you would do
how
it.
it developed. I don't know how you would do it. Right? I mean, I'm not saying it's more of wish fulfillment. It's more like a wish that I know will probably never come true. But it made you think what could have been if they had done another Top Gun movie. I don't know, in like 1995 or something. You know, when the two of them were still like Val Kilmer was playing Batman and Tom Cruise was about to kick off the Mission Impossible franchise, and they could have done a Top Gun sequel. I mean, one of the other things I mentioned in my review was the sequences, the aerial sequences in this stuff. They're 95% real. I think the Russian, well, they don't call it Russian, they don't call it Iranian or anything like that in the movie, but the implication is like this rogue nation whose facility they're destroying is some combination of Iranian, Russian, and everything, because Iran is known to be one of the countries that still operates a number of F-14s that the U.S. no longer uses, you know, from a different era. And then the fifth generation fighters that they use are modeled on this, I think, one of the Russian fifth generation fighters that are still in development, not actually in use by them, but the sequence. So other than those fighter jets, well, the F-14 they shot for real. But that fifth generation fighter was CGI'd in, and the Dark Star, the one that's experimental aircraft in the beginning of the movie, some of that is CG. Other than when it's on the ground, they use like an actual model. But everything else, you're seeing the actors in the planes pulling 8, 9 Gs. If you watch the behind the scenes featurette, they went through a lot of hard work to get themselves to that point, to be able to actually be able to film that stuff. They have cameras that they've developed specifically for this movie that they work with Sony on that had never been used before, IMAX certified, like 6 of them in a cockpit. Like, there's a lot of technical innovation that went into this movie, and that alone, I think, you know, helped elevate the film well beyond the original. And the fact that they can use most of the footage beyond just Tom Cruise and the jets flying. In the original movie, most of the actors kept passing out. So they got put through, the new batch got put through a lot tougher training that the original guys did. So to account for the fact that they were going to be pulling 8, 9 Gs and they could still keep their eyes open and act in the sequences. I loved everything. I loved so much of this movie. I mean, I'm like, if this is what a summer blockbuster could be, then
it's honestly, it's a return to feel good, you know, black and white, in terms of the good and evil.
Yeah,
it's taking us back to movies with real heart, and this is something that we've been seeing. You know, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I will even say Stranger Things it's getting deeper, and it's this empty nostalgia and empty action. I think we're kind of breaking out of these superficial movie trends that we've been seeing for a long time. But to put a cap on it, I will say, like, this is a good movie to see. See it in theaters if you can. It's much better than the original. And you don't need to see the original to enjoy this, because I went with somebody who'd never seen it. She was like, I was not prepared to like this. She liked it. So it was a good movie to see. If there's one more thing to say about this, I would say go see it. It's worth seeing, even if you haven't seen the first one. And, you know, you can spend $25 or more on one transaction at Applebee's, like the quesadilla burger or the Fiesta Lime Chicken, to get a free movie ticket, maximum 2 movie tickets per transaction, to go see Top Gun Maverick. Go do that. Go to your local Applebee's and see this movie. That's my suggestion.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
They're coming. Stay hidden, or we will not survive.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode 1. What a start. I must say, I'm not surprised. It had a very strong potential to be something great, and it delivered. It is a great start to a very deep, complex, and interesting case study of a broken mind. I'm glad we get to see what actually happened in those 25 years in Ben's mind, essentially, how he forgave himself, the mistakes of his past, and how he got over what his training actually did to, the entire galaxy by bringing up one of the biggest villains of all time. No biggie. What I really, really like about series so far, or the episode 1, is that the story really takes the time to introduce the characters, to set the pace. For those who haven't seen the prequels, you're not expected to get every little detail. However, for Star Wars die fans like I am, there's just enough to feed. I really, really enjoy that fact the prequels are sort of put back on map. We're praising them once again. The prequels are cool again, they are relevant. And I've always say this, it's an unpopular opinion, but prequels play such a big role in, explaining what the hell happened. And Obi-Wan finds a way to make those 3 films engaging again, and also using some of the stylistic setups, cameras, CGI. All that is a bit raw. It's not as polished as Mandalorian or, the newest trilogy, but it still feels newish, whilst also maintaining the prequel feel. Great cast, with one particular little person that we weren't expect to come. I think she stole the show. I will talk in greater detail about her in my longer review. I'm really, really excited to see what happens next.
All right, I have not been following any of the new Star Wars series. Could you tell me, Mags, is this the one to watch if you're going to jump into Star Wars television? Because we are in the age of Star Wars television now. Would you say this is the way to get started?
To answer your question, honestly, no. Definitely
Yeah, okay.
Mandalorian.
Please,
Mandalorian.
Why?
Mandalorian's the way forward. It's just far better story, and you don't need to be a fan of this series in order to get to Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
And it still sort of sticks with you enough for you to, stay engaged and watch the season from, start to finish. Every episode is great. However, having said that about Obi-Wan interestingly plays the same thing. You don't need to be as I said in my review, like a diehard fan in order to watch this, because the series kind of feeds you with enough of stuff, as well as drops just enough Easter eggs for all the fans to, stay entertained and really engage. What I most liked about series, though, was the fact that, I mentioned already Mandalorian. You get Mandalorian, you get Ahsoka, you have the newest trilogy. All those films and products, they look so polished, so very well done. Whereas Obi-Wan decides to take a lot of the style from prequels and makes prequels look cool again. So prequels, at the end of the day, they became like a cult film, hated by years, and
right.
Yeah, they sort of land back on the map, and it's the coolest thing ever how this season or this show manages to do that.
Is that just in terms of the aesthetics, or like characters they're bringing back, or what do you mean they're leaning into the prequel?
So aesthetics, the CGIs are more on the raw side. They're not as polished. They're not as well defined. They're a bit rocky, I'd say. And the characters, yes, 100%. There's just enough characters to make you feel like you're watching a prequel, whilst also adding some new characters. And I'm sure Dan will agree with me. The characters that are added are very engaging. They're more interesting than we thought they're going to be. They're not just serving the plot, but yeah.
I mean, by new characters, I'm sure you mean the veteran Clone Ranger.
The Grand Inquisitor. We
Well, that
have
was
Reva.
I was being sarcastic. The veteran clone. You know what I mean, right? Veteran clone.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. Okay. I'm.
But that's
I
episode
I had
two.
mixed feelings about this. I had mixed feelings about the show. It's. I think I
Did
told you
you?
guys I fell asleep on episode 2 because.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
because you don't
partly because
sleep.
I was really tired, but
Exactly.
I don't know. Well, here's the thing. I think I was more tired yesterday, but then I sat through 5 episodes of Stranger Things. So
Yeah.
I mean, I thought
yeah.
Reva's portrayal came out very flat for me. It almost it felt like she was being very petulant, you know? It's like I was like, "Oh, look, we got a new Kylo Ren." I literally said that watching that show. Episode 2 especially, because and then there were some parkour sequences and I'm like, oh, that's a little unnecessary.
She needs more story. I don't think her explanation to her lust for power of Vader's approval is justified just enough. Just because, or her hatred towards Kenobi, because it cannot be more than just, hey, I want to hunt the Jedis down. Like it's not it. That felt a little bit flat. I completely agree with you. But what do you think about Leia? My favorite character.
They brought Leia back?
Oh yeah.
That was a pleasant surprise. Yeah.
Perfect. She's like Grogu to Mandalorian. And I keep saying this, like she's this thing that just elevates the whole series into something more uplifting, because it's, you know, it's dark times. It's
how are they doing that? Because I know for Luke, they have, you know, CG'd Mark Hamill's face.
They're 10 years old. They're 10 years old.
Okay, so it's not like we're looking
at
okay.
That's why when you play with children, and I said this also in my review, because we finally don't get to follow Luke, we're completely like, you know, leaving Luke for now. We're following Leia, and we get to sort of see the world through her eyes, whilst she's sort of embracing Carrie Fisher, you know, her older self, as well as her mom, Padme. Like she has so many Natalie Portman qualities. It's insane how well casted this little girl was, which I asked you guys before. It's Vivian Lyra Blair. That's her name. Yeah.
That is compelling. I mean, just because we've known the idea of Leia since Star Wars came out. Like we first meet her as a hologram, and it's like to get. I feel like it's a little late, you know, like we should have gotten some more backstory on her a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, we did meet her mom in episode 1 as Natalie Portman, right? But what an interesting. So how far into the childhood and into her life do we get?
But by the way, Dan, do you share even my observation? But we only get to see, you know, her place, and without spoiling things, she gets to leave her home planet Alderaan briefly, and she interacts with one of the main characters of the show, and it's just the most brilliant thing in the world. I thought it really nicely, well played. I don't think anyone was expecting her to make a comeback. But yeah, Dan, are you sharing my thoughts? Are you sharing my observations? The same enthusiasm about Leia?
She was the best part of the show by far. I think her character really gave the show life. Because the thing is, this show is trying to balance a couple of different things. It's trying to be like a Star Wars adventure, like, you know, a lot of Star Wars adventures are action and, you know, some level of humor and generally not too dark. Whereas this show, the first episode really showed you just how dark a time, especially because the first episode is very much all about Obi-Wan and where he is. Oh, there you go. There's Veteran Clone Ranger.
That's actually Ewan McGregor's daughter in real life.
Huh. Oh, this?
On pink hair. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. That conversation is a little dark too in that scene. What she says to him, it's sort of that, you know, it's real life, like what happens in the real world, sort of like that was one. I don't want to dive too deep into that, but anyway, as I was saying, the first episode was you feel the pain, because I kept thinking to myself, okay, Obi-Wan's story is really sad. I mean, just it's kind of like if you the Star Trek equivalent would be a Star Trek equivalent would be Captain Pike, because you know from like the first few episodes of the original Star Trek series that where Captain Pike ends up ultimately, and it's like, you know, he gets basically paralyzed and he's sort of spends the last few years of his life just waiting to die. And you see Obi-Wan Kenobi's story basically finished in the very first Star Wars
Are we
movie.
going into this with, you know, full-on spoilers and stuff?
We can touch spoilers. I don't.
Okay.
Tease us a little bit. Tell us. I mean, give us some compelling reasons to watch it, because it's just by you mentioning that Kenobi's story is a sad one.
Well, but that's not really a spoiler.
For. Yeah, so it's compelling. You know, as somebody who's totally not into it, it sounds like there's a good story to hear.
As Dan mentioned, you know, it's sad, but I think there was also a really nice moment in the second episode, at the end of second episode, that I think majority of us fans completely forgot. The fact that Obi-Wan didn't even know that Anakin survived the fight. The fact that he created a monster. He contributed into a downfall of the entire galaxy. You know, I have this theory that it's not even as much hiding that Obi-Wan does at Tatooine and, you know, watching overlook, but he's punishing himself for the mistakes of his past more than anything else.
So we're seeing him deal with his guilt through this whole series. That's also different. You know, we don't, again, with a lot of these action movies, we see like the training, we see the hero's journey, we see them defeat the bad guy, and you know, there's not a whole lot of room for character. Luke Skywalker is notoriously kind of a flat character, but he goes through some stuff. It's nice to know that these Jedis are people too, and that they have their own emotions and like live lives outside of, you know, call names in outer space.
Especially because, you know, the whole Jedi, they take, I mean, George Lucas took so much from Buddhism and so much from the devotion towards, you know, art and sacrifice and, you know, no attachment into things or people, no love,
does that
things
come
like
through
that.
in this as well?
It does, because in the way you see how, you know, Jedi are being haunted.
There's that one Jedi who comes to him for help, and and he's like, that's where he gives those, you know, the lines from the trailer. He's like, "It's over, the war is over." Something like, "We lost," you know, just bury that lightsaber somewhere in the desert and go live a normal life. Essentially, he's Ben Kenobi now, not Obi-Wan, and it's one of those things where I think the original Star Wars never intended to obviously cover that aspect of Ben Kenobi's life, because they were just, you know, there was Luke Skywalker's story, and then the prequels sort of covered the much earlier aspects of his life, where it's a lot, you know, starts on a high note and then ultimately you see where he ends up, but then you never get to see the part of his life where he spent like 20 years in the peak of his prime almost, or not the peak of his prime, but like the years when he should be, you know, if the Jedi Council hadn't been destroyed, he would have been one of the senior members and leading a comfortable life.
He already was. He was a Jedi Master in the Council.
But now, like, he's living like a hermit on a desert planet, working for this oppressive employer, basically, you know, as a butcher of this like alien fish of some kind. And then he's just there observing a kid that the kid's family doesn't even want him to be near. And it's so sad. It's really sad. What they show you about like what his daily routine is sad, and it's depressing. And then also how, you know, his life where it ultimately ends. I'm like, okay, so he goes on a little adventure in the grand scheme of things with Luke for a couple of days, and then meets Darth Vader for the first time in a long time. And then he just like,
I mean,
you know, that's just a Force ghost. It's
that, I mean, I'm really happy they included that moment, because honestly, I think everyone thought the moment when he realizes the Vader, there's like this single scene itself, it has so much guilt, you know, he's afraid, he's sad, he's glad, like his face actually says so much by by when he finds out that the Vader is still alive. I'm
That's-
super excited for them to be in the same room, and I really hope so that's going to happen, because that might be one of the most iconic things.
Honestly,
ever.
you're doing a good job selling this, because it sounds like they're putting moments in there that we've been curious about since the original trilogy came out, and because we know from episode 1, and like they knew each other, they worked together, they did all this stuff, but now to learn he died, wait, he's still you would go through all those emotions yourself and wonder, like, is he a good guy still? I'm glad to hear he's alive. Oh wait, what? And to have to go through that realization and to face your friend going through this transformation is,
and
that's
Ewan
relatable.
McGregor, obviously
Well, they
he's a
consider
great
each other
actor.
brothers. Like, I think Obi-Wan and they were like, we were brothers. You even see that in the previously on Star Wars montage at the beginning. So
do they cut together stuff from the movies too?
Yeah, the very first time they've ever done
the
something
very
like that.
first 5 minutes.
Honestly,
No, I mean
good call.
there are flashbacks.
There
But-
should be.
Well,
No,
it's like a whole montage.
The
Like,
whole-
you've never
yeah.
seen Star Wars do it, but now they're really embracing the television format. So you see them
So it's
start
not just
the
a
show
block
with.
of text.
No.
Well, no. They say a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but then they give you like a 5-minute review of everything that has happened in the prequels leading up to where we are in the show.
It's a nice little shortcut for those who haven't seen it. And one more thing I quickly just want to say is Ewan McGregor's acting has always been great, from Train Spotting through prequels. He did a great job. But I must say, it's absolutely amazing how he's not the same Obi-Wan as we saw in prequels. He's more Alec Guinness Obi-Wan this time. And I found it
That's the
most
thing.
incredible.
This show exists 10 years after the prequels and almost 10 years before this the original trilogy. So you get this. I think he gets as an actor a lot of room to play and create something different.
It makes
and
me
that was
wonder.
To me fascinating.
It makes me wonder if, with all of the deep faking that's going on right now, if they're gonna slowly morph his face.
Oh no!
So that he
I
ages.
I wouldn't put it past Disney, but
honestly, I might be a good.
I don't think they're
really
gonna
hope
do
not.
it.
But
I mean, okay, so
even McGregor, he really gets, the mannerism, the way that Alec Guinness speaks very slowly, very nicely. It's okay. I must say, if you have to watch something this weekend, go and watch freaking Stranger Things. However, Obi-Wan's still good. It's pretty good, but it's the next topic of our conversation, I think, is much better.
Well, why don't we move on, because we all watched Stranger Things. Did we all?
Well, before we do that, just wanted to let you guys know.
Yeah.
We gotta ask for the likes and subscribe, but more than even that, if you guys are interested in the show, if you've watched the show, definitely drop by our YouTube channel. If you aren't already there, if you're watching us elsewhere, drop by the YouTube channel and check out Mag's reviews. She's gonna be reviewing Obi-Wan Kenobi every week. There's only 4 more episodes left. I mean, Disney is cheap like that. They only do 6-episode seasons and 41-minute
we have
episodes.
4 more series to go
we have
through.
4. Yes, we have 4 more weeks of Obi-Wan Kenobi to take in, and Mags is going to be reviewing the show every week. So much like what you saw before this segment, she reviewed the first episode. She's going to have her second episode review up too, and then you can follow along with episode 3 through 6. And of course, like, subscribe, comment below, let us know what you thought about the 2-episode debut of the show. And now we can move on.
Time for sports with Dan and Brian.
Tommy Pham was suspended 3 games for slapping Jock Peterson on the face over a fantasy football dispute.
Yeah, Daniel, I feel like there's much worse punishments for losing in fantasy football than that. I mean, here's one. Real Madrid defeated Liverpool to win a record 14th Champions League title. Daniel?
Well, that's Liverpool doing Liverpool things. They choked away both the Premier League and the Champions League. I'm a Manchester United fan.
Champions League trophies heading back to Madrid.
What are the odds of the Lakers making the playoffs after hiring Darvin Ham as their new head coach?
You know, Daniel, we could think whatever we want about this hire, but for now, let's hear what Stephen A. Smith has to say about it.
Toughness will not be an issue with a Darvin Ham team.
Prior to Real Madrid claiming the title, Liverpool fans were pepper sprayed and tear gassed by police that were unable to gain access to the stadium.
Well, that's just a rotten cherry on top of an already bad week for Liverpool fans.
Horrible. Horrible.
Wow, well, I feel informed.
Yeah, Stranger Things, volume 1 is out, and let me tell you something. It keeps getting stranger and thingier. All right. No, it's even though these episodes average around over 70 minutes, they keep you engaged with how complicated and interesting all these sub stories are going, and it'll be fun to see how they sum up the end of this season. I'll say that. But I love this show. What do you guys think about this season?
Again, I was not prepared to really enjoy Stranger Things because I haven't really enjoyed it since the first season. But I gotta say, once I got past the initial, tuning into the style of acting and the style of directing, I was captivated for all 7 episodes. I will say, I think they took their time in places where they really didn't need to. So there's no reason it has to be as long as it is. But it seems kind of like a victory lap for them. So let them enjoy it.
Do you think that was the plan from the start, guys? To make them this long, or they just started writing or shooting this thing and they were like, oh, we should...
Well, I think it's COVID, they had that break, so of course they have more time to work on this story. So of course they're gonna want to expand this as much as they can.
Well, okay. So let me point out a few things from a production standpoint, right? You have to consider. These one of the biggest things we kept talking about over this show over the years is these kids keep getting bigger. Like they're growing, and kids grow fast. You can just tell there were some flashback sequences in the episodes from Volume 1 that have dropped, where especially the Sadie Singh's character she's reminiscing about where she's about to sort of die. She doesn't die. Spoiler warning, but you see just how much older they are now, how different they look from those earlier seasons in that montage alone. And one of the biggest things that you have to keep in mind with this show is they had 2 years, they had like 2-3 year gap. So
3 years.
One of the things that to take advantage of was, hey, look, I think what ended up happening, they were going to shoot 1 season's worth of stuff, which was going to be about half of what we're actually getting. And then they said, okay, well, I guess we're going to do this as like one big season. And it just kept going. As far as episode structures, the way this whole show is shot, you could very easily cut out the intro credits and just slap all those together into one 9-hour-long thing with very little editing work, and the breaks would be pretty seamless. So yeah, I think it was a combination of they planned for them episodes being as long as they are, but also I think then they were like, well, we got a lot more room than we thought we would, and you just ended up with this 9 hours for just
but they work
7 of 9 episodes.
Look at all of us. We went into this thing hoping to watch, two episodes, and we ended up watching the whole. I mean, me and Andrew, we watched the whole thing. You guys are almost done. Yeah. They are managing to make it engaging. So we are here, complaining about the length of it, but at the end of the day, we didn't mind it. We loved every minute of it. I mean, majority of it.
I think. I don't want to say I loved every minute of it. I do think the Russia scenes,
yeah, that was overkill.
Were like, you could cut them out and it wouldn't affect any of the rest of the plot, unless I'm missing something at the end of this season where it's.
That's probably what it is. I'm willing to bet that that ties together late in the show.
Oh,
up until now,
sure.
It's been so separate. Yeah.
There's so much. There's a lot of fat to trim if you really wanted to. There's cutting back to things that we've seen 100 times. And there's just some scenes that could just be edited a lot quicker. The pacing is slow on this one. And the storytelling is good because they're taking their time, and you sort of get to mull things over. They kind of hand you some things, but
they go back all the way to season 1. That's
They do.
I think
Yeah.
they do.
I don't know.
Roland, you smirked at the whole they take their time. You have a comment?
Yes, I do, and I'm glad you said something, Daniel. But I think we have to remember this show started as a horror sci-fi, and we're seeing a lot of this horror thing. And to really, make the experience as best as it can, it's got to be a little bit of slow burn. It's got to make you want it.
Yeah,
It can't. And with all the stories going on, we can't just go all at once because it just won't be digestible. But you were going to say something.
Understood. I will say, in terms of the makeup, the monsters, the actual horror elements in this, I'm a big fan.
It's gory.
Yeah.
This is the best it's ever looked. It hasn't been this scary since the first season. I thought middle 2 were just kind of funny, honestly, and I didn't really, I didn't buy into it so much. This time, the writing has been great. There's a backstory. It all ties together, which I really like. And then one of the more charming things from season 1 was the whole Ouija board way of communicating.
The lights.
With the lights and the on the wall. Brilliant. They bring it back in such a clever way. And again, we were talking about cell phones before, how they have to come up with these different ways of communicating in the 1980s in the moment. And they do it in this clever way. They tie in some extra nostalgia. I won't spoil this because I was really charmed by it. But everything worked really nicely here.
It's almost like as if they didn't have access to 80s, they wouldn't be able to bring it. Like they really used 80s to their advantage rather than stylistic choice, as it was happening with the last 2 seasons. And I think that's what we all struggled with. That's why we weren't excited, but they got us, because look at us. We love this season. We absolutely love it.
I agree.
Watching this show, like a couple episodes in, and at that point realizing I'll be here all night long watching the rest of this, I was just thinking this show is everything. Literally, that's what the same thought kept coming to my mind, because I watched Top Gun earlier in the week, and I was like, oh my God, now this is a summer blockbuster that I can enjoy and love, and I can watch it like over and over again. Then I watched Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I was a little more lukewarm to it, and I was like, oh, it's the same old Disney Plus crap, in the sense that, you get short episodes and there's very little plot progression, and the first episode was good, the second not so good. Then I watched Stranger Things, and you watch Stranger Things, and this show has a little bit of everything. What you get in this show is you get the comedy, you get the comic relief, you're getting some of the self-aware humor. Like literally there's points in the show where they're trying to poke holes in the logic of the whole Upside Down and the Dungeons and Dragons of it all. Then there's a whole thing of they're playing on this whole idea of how Dungeons and Dragons was basically stigmatized as like this evil game back in the 80s. And satanic.
Still
and they lean
is.
into that. And I'm like, there's so much happening. And then one thing that, Roland, you brought this up, like where this show does a great job with, especially in this season, and even in seasons prior, they have a big cast, and a cast that has kept on growing seemingly. They've added new characters every season. But in order to give each character their due, you need to spend a good amount of time with them. You can't just rush the stories or make it feel like you're not spending enough time with each character. And I think what this season specifically does is it addresses that idea where you saw the first episode spend most of its time setting up where each character is. And then you get the whole, why are we watching this season in particular, setup and conflict begins at the end of the episode. And then what I also liked is they didn't kill like somebody new every episode. They sort of like went through the progression of one episode they kill somebody, and then then the next victim gets taken, and then a few episodes later, and all of it is sort of tied into the story of the show. It balances out the humor well. It balances out the acting. The action. I mean to say the action well. And what you mentioned, Andrew, like the previous seasons in all of them, you kind of felt like they were trying to be more Goonies than like a proper horror psychological thriller. And this season, they're like, okay, We know what we are.
Well,
We're not gonna
they're
pretend
giving
to be
they're giving the story some of
adult
its own
humans.
weight, and they're actually treating it like its own story, which is different because everything else has been, you know, a nostalgia trap. It's been, you know, here's things that you remember seeing from the 80s, here's music you remember. And by the way, a lot of good music.
Soundtrack.
Yeah.
But
Oh my
It's,
God.
but it's
Yes.
I love
This-
the soundtrack.
this season they are really giving everything its due. They're giving us Eleven's backstory. They're showing us relationships that are changing. They're delving into the creation of the Upside Down and how it all works. And we're getting more
You're
information
spoiling it.
about things that we actually care about. I'm not spoiling anything.
Okay.
We're getting more information is all I'm saying about
Yeah.
all these things.
Yeah.
You know, it's also plunging forward, and there is going to be some resolution, it looks like. But really, like, the writing is getting better out there, whoever's doing the writing.
I will say I do love how these characters interact with each other because they feel real. I know, Andrew, you were saying something earlier, but they're over dramatic sometimes, but that's what a high schooler is. You know, they're cringy, they're weird, they're trying to be cool, but they end up dorky, or they're trying to be
Over the
dorky,
top.
just
Yeah.
sound
I think
weird. But that was high
sometimes-
school. Like for
I
me,
agree.
yeah,
And
everybody I
sometimes-
talked to is the
especially
word.
with Mike, I have to be like, okay, is it the acting or is it the fact that he's 17 and am I just frustrated with 17-year-old me?
Yeah.
And I cringe thinking like, oh, I was like that. Because
I will say I hate Mike Wheeler. I'm just gonna say it. I'm not a Mike Wheeler fan. I haven't been. The last time I liked him was season 1.
What about Will Byers? Don't you guys think he was just
I like-
completely neglected this season, though?
no, because apparently
No, him and Lucas, I think were neglected. But Andrew, you
Lucas is that whole subplot is just odd, but it's again realistic that like he would join a sports team and he'd feel that friction.
Yeah, he does want
But-
to be a weirdo.
Yeah, and with Will, there was an article or a video where they started talking about how they're. I guess we'll spoil this, but he's apparently gay in this, and he's.
Oh, I got hints of that for a while. This is,
Yeah,
I think,
that was
been
last
hinted at.
season.
Yeah.
They hint harder.
heavily
Yeah.
last season. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's that's
why
another
it's
thing.
that's why it was so awkward between him and Mike,
Mike.
because he kind of came out to him, didn't he?
Some of the dialogue is like very on the nose about that, even in this one. There, especially like when, after Elle leaves. I won't, go into details. And they're sitting in her bedroom and Callie, and they're talking about that conversation.
Yeah.
Felt like, as an actor, what Will Byers was going for was very different than what Mike was supposed to be taking away from that conversation.
It was a smartly constructed scene. I mean, just the line is pretty good. If I can spoil it, he goes, because Mike's staring at this note, and he goes, "Just staring at the note isn't going to change it." And then he just stares at Mike.
Yeah,
and it's like, that's good acting. That's a good choice.
I will say it's kind of like a role reversal, because Finn Wolfhard's character Richie was kind of in this dynamic in It Chapter 2.
Right.
But it's the opposite, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's just like longing for a friend, but feeling weird.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about new characters? I absolutely love
I love this
Eddie.
guy.
Argyle.
I
love Argyle.
This dude just made me laugh every time.
Yeah.
And especially when they're high and they're at that junkyard. I'm like, some of those scenes are like the best moments of this season so far.
Or the
And
risotto.
one thing to remind you guys, the season's not over yet. This is volume 1. So July 1st, they dropped the last 2 episodes of the season, both of which are movie length. Like, one of them is 2.5 hours long, insanely long. But I mean, this guy, just this conversation, this scene when he's
funny.
like, the pizza whole thing, I'm like, okay. He's like, I want him to meet Michael Peña's character from Ant-Man and then just have a movie together, like a buddy, some kind of adventure.
Yeah.
I'm
But
here
Max,
for that.
I also love Eddie. I heard you say him earlier.
Yes.
Eddie was
Thank
so
you.
cool. I loved him because he
I
was
love
like this
Eddie's
I've
good.
definitely seen a couple of Eddies in my life. You know, this total wild
Same.
guy.
He was a
And then-
very real
Yes.
character.
And then he turns around and he has this total soft side that like comes out of no. It was so refreshing to see for some reason. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah.
I really
Also-
I liked Yuri. I
Yuri,
really liked
yes.
Yuri.
Like
I was
Yuri?
Yuri's
he
the
was-
best.
He was
Yuri
this
was fun.
Big
Yeah.
Russian character. It was just over the top. I was like, I've been missing
He's,
characters like this.
He's the guy from Game of Thrones. For the longest time, I was like, where
Which guy?
are you at? He's the no man. He's training Arya.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's crazy.
It took
I
me
just
a while.
realized. I
I
had
was
no
like,
idea.
where
He's
are you
great.
at?
He's really
He's
great.
great.
What I'll say, guys, I'll just say this. In this show, the one thing that I noticed, which we don't have enough of these days, and a lot of other shows and movies, is the bad guys are having fun being the bad guys.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you watch
Yeah.
The Dark Knight, I hate to bring up The Dark Knight again because I feel like I bring it up all the time. But like Heath Ledger's Joker, you could
I mean,
tell.
I was
I mean,
surprised.
he was having fun playing that role, and in this show, you could tell that the bad guys were having fun playing the character. Like you know, you're not like, you know, they're not too self-serious, and then I love it when that's the case. I mean, this guy here, Jason, is the only guy who's self-serious, like as far as like an antagonist, but
Yeah, and
everybody else I loved.
they do some interesting preacher stuff with him where he's trying to rile people up and
Mhm.
yeah, honestly, the acting is good in this season. The directing is a lot better, and the writing is great.
It's a
entertaining.
shame they're heading out with this. That should have been the case.
They should
Season 2.
Go out on top. Go out on top.
Well,
yeah.
this isn't the last show. That last season, is it? Is it? I thought is this the
It
last
is.
season? Or I
No.
think there's
They're
one
saying
more.
this is- I've
There's gonna be
heard-
5th season.
There is.
There's
I
no
heard
fifth.
that they were
What?
gonna expand the universe and do like spin-off
yeah.
stuff, but
For
not
sure.
necessarily more of Stranger Things.
Oh wow. Okay.
Well, you
Oh.
could just do that on Mike's. Sorry, what's his name? The guy who works at the pizza shop. He needs his own
Argyle?
show.
Argo.
He needs his own show.
Mm.
I would not
Yeah.
watch that show.
I would watch it. Totally watch it. Come on. I would
He
totally
could
watch
be
it.
in an updated Scooby Doo for sure. He'd be a good Shaggy.
Oh yeah.
Shaggy type. Yeah.
Oh, I could see that.
But that's the
Yeah.
other thing. The way they've split everybody up, it's like a very long episode of an extreme episode of Scooby Doo.
Scooby-Doo,
Let's
yes.
split up. Except you're in California, you're in Russia, and we're back home. And it's like they're cutting together all these
It
things.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
like it
hopefully-
because
Because
Well,
we
it works, for
care for
sure.
all of them.
Yeah.
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 it's the tricky part about those kind of stories is the balance. You gotta find a way to balance those out because you can get too ambitious and then some characters get sidelined. I feel like there's a little bit of that, like you guys mentioned, a little bit of that happens. Like at least as far as I've gone with episode 5, I feel like there's a few characters who haven't had much to do, like Mike, for example. But overall, they're balancing the stories going on in those locations very, very well. Like you're getting a lot of good. I mean, even like Elle gets separated from the pack, if you will. She's like out in Nevada somewhere, and
Yeah.
it works. So yeah, I love it. I can't wait for the 2 more episodes that are left in volume 1. I can't wait to see the 4 hours plus or whatever is going to come with episodes 8 and 9. I don't know about you guys. What are you guys looking forward to July 1st now? Like it's
that when it's coming
After
out?
watching
It's gonna sneak
finale,
up on you.
I am.
Yeah.
It's on
You
my
can-
calendar.
The thing is, like, you can spend a whole day watching all of them. If you have the patience, I think it would be smarter to spread it out. But
No,
watch
you
it.
that's
can
the thing.
say
It's like watching a movie. Literally, like the next episode that I'm gonna watch is an hour 15. The one after that is an hour 38. It's
Have
a
fun.
movie. It takes
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, if you love the show, if you watch the show, or I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are like us who are probably watching Stranger Things, but like it's Sunday on Memorial Day weekend in the US, and there's still probably most people haven't finished the first season, because you could binge 8 episodes of Stranger Things previous seasons like that. This 5 episodes in, I'm like, okay, I need a break. But yeah, I told you guys going into the weekend, that was probably the least anticipated of the 3 projects, but coming out of it, it will probably be the best one of the bunch. So let us know if you guys, watched it, haven't watched it, are looking forward to watching it, and if you liked it, leave us a comment. We'd love to know your thoughts. Like,
If there's a
subscribe, and
character
subscribe.
that you think that we remind you of, let us know in
Yeah.
the comments. We always love to hear
Oh.
from you guys.
That's dangerous. But sure,
Said
go
voice.
ahead.
Okay.
I can assign them for you guys. No
Oh,
problem.
sure. While we're here,
Let's do it in the open mic.
Let's
Sure,
do
Yeah.
it.
Let's do that. Let's start open mic that way.
Let's roll into open mic that. All right, open mic.
Open mic. We can talk about whatever we want. Mags, you wanted to, I assume, insult us?
No insult us. But I just wanted to say, by the way, do you remember when we talked about Fleabag? You can make
Yeah.
connection from Stranger Things to Fleabag.
I don't even know how
So-
you connect those two, but go ahead.
So Brad Gelman, who plays
There you
Murray,
go.
Yes.
Yes.
he's
Yes.
Martin.
Yeah.
I really
Love
love
that.
him in Fleabag.
He's great.
I hate
Lemon.
this character.
Murray.
I like Lemon. I hate.
Did you like
Murray.
Lemon?
Yeah, especially a million matzo balls. I think that's such a. fun
Guys, did
for
you
so
notice
many
something in
reasons.
Stranger Things? Another reference to this is a reference to the MCU that I noticed. They're riding in the van. I think this is when they're running away from the military and they're on the road in the desert somewhere. And
Yeah.
I think it's basically they're in the pizza van. They start, it's somewhere in the conversation they come up blip 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 blip. Oh, that's a funny word.
Oh,
Blip, blip,
yeah.
blip, blip. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. The first thing that popped in my mind was the blip MCU. I'm like, yes, poke fun at it, destroy
Yeah.
it, knock it down. I don't know. I'm just like, the
Not even
nihilist in me
aware.
was like, yes, yeah, because this is honestly like Stranger Things season 4 especially, but Stranger Things in general to me is better than 90% of what we get from the MCU usually. So
I heard you dogging on it in your Top Gun review.
oh, I
You're-
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Very mixed feelings about it because I just think that movie missed the mark on so many levels for me. And then
That was
Eternals
awful.
was terrible. It had some inherent functional problems with the story, which I'm just not to see. I mean, Marvel is always good with like making sure the story.
I think I sat through you reviewing that.
Oh,
before that,
God,
let's
I
not
went
put them
wild
again.
on that review. That was
Yeah,
that
I
was-
heard.
that was fun. No, but Stranger Things it's so much. Oh my God, it's like when you watch a show that is so good, like I'm coming off of watching Severance and now watching Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It's a different level, man. It's just a different level of storytelling.
Do you guys miss 80s? Because after watching Stranger Things, I had this huge craving to have lived
Well,
in 80s.
I don't want to speak for.
It might be the best
don't
decade, no?
think we. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't even think I was.
You weren't alive. We know.
I
we
wasn't
know.
alive.
Well,
I
none
was
of us
not.
were alive in the 80s.
Yeah,
None of
Andy
us.
wasn't alive either.
All
Let's
I,
not pretend.
all I can say is every time the 80s come up with my parents, they're like, "Oh, you should have been there." I was like, "Yeah, you should have gotten to work sooner." But I was not there.
Yeah.
I know everybody who lived through the 80s.
You
loved
did
it.
not say.
Oh, that's my
Yeah.
relationship with my parents. I can say
I love it.
whatever I liked. It's like open mic, except at a dinner table.
Yeah.
Honestly,
feel
my,
that.
my parents have a lot of those 80s comeback, and to be fair, I don't mind it. I have like some of the warmest childhood memories when there was some stuff for like toys or games from the 80s. Like
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Watching Stranger Things, I do look back at my childhood and go like, yeah, we had Light Bright and Magic 8 Balls and
Yeah.
all the. There's something just like deep in my mind that's like, yes, childhood, the building blocks of your mind, they are here.
Yeah.
Remember?
I
And-
will say, Mags, you wait in
I
20
do.
years, and us, my
80s.
my
yeah.
generation, we're gonna have our time. You're gonna see a lot of
Yes.
throwbacks to the 2Ks.
I
Okay.
don't know if
I know.
I don't know if anybody's gonna miss
90s.
anything from 2000 to 2026. I don't think anybody's gonna miss
You'd
this
say
time.
that,
think that,
but,
but
I would say
dude, in the
that. I just said
90s
it.
they were obsessed with the 60s. Right now we're obsessed with the 80s. It's gonna happen.
Everybody's
I
always like,
honestly-
wouldn't it be better if
no.
we lived back then?
I
Yeah.
think we're on a loop where we just keep doing 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
And I think that's
I don't think
we're just going to go back
I don't
to the
think
60s
90s
in the next
were ever a thing. Yeah.
90s tried to happen. They
90s
tried to make it happen. But
They're even now they are.
90s
Like
has
the-
been like a
Not
thing
really.
since 2013.
I think the
Yeah.
most we will see is we will have a grunge resurgence. I think there could be a grunge and like heartfelt granola acoustic singer-songwriter stuff that's drippy like the 90s.
Well, I mean,
think you could see, like musically, I
yeah.
could see the 90s happening again. But I think stylistically, we're just kind of on a loop of 60s, 70s, 80s, front end of 90s. But
Yeah.
that's because 80s was all like, we've developed all of the analog technology. It's all state of the art. Like everybody's, I mean, generally everybody was doing better financially, and there was decadence, and everything was over the top and super
Too
clean,
much.
super overproduced.
Yeah.
So that by the 90s, grunge made sense because it was a reaction. It was like,
Yeah.
what if we just did something that was raw? And I think maybe that's what we're sort of seeing with movies now that are going back to heartfelt stuff. But raw is something that I think people are hungry for. So
Yeah.
we could get some 90s. We'll see. If Stranger
I don't know.
Things-
There's definitely been a
spin-offs.
90s aesthetic that's been going around. Seth,
Yeah.
like if you were on Tumblr during the 2010s, let me tell you something. There was a lot of
That was
grunge
90s.
going on. There was
Yeah.
a big
true,
90s
Mm.
want. And I'm telling you, I would not be surprised if 20 years we're
You
seeing.
know,
Well,
Oh.
so-
Roland did
Boys
an episode
and-
of Roland Underground that was all about talking about this exact subject of
Yep.
nostalgia. And Roland
Yeah,
has
I
a pretty
remember.
interesting theory about like, why we currently reminisce about the 80s and that in the future we'll be reminiscing about the 90s or the 2000s, because basically the people who are making all this content are from, they remember those years as their best years, so they are
part of it. That's
Yeah.
part of it. But it's also like,
Yeah.
why they're doing How I Met Your Father with Hilary Duff and Josh Peck. It's like,
Mm.
that's for us.
Yeah.
And
Well, but
now-
I think there's a confluence of trends, because right now reboots and IP-driven media is all the craze. So I think you can mix that with the trend of like what decade is in vogue. Like for example, this week alone, like literally every project, like Top Gun Maverick, which by the way, speaking of the 90s, 97%, 312 reviews, fantastic. But then also Obi-Wan Kenobi and Stranger Things, all of those have their roots in the 80s.
Yes, and to just sort of bounce off of that, because I do
Yeah.
think
Not
that
Star Wars.
not Star Wars.
Well,
Sorry.
like what's 1978, but like one out of every other movie was in the 70s. Everything else is 80s. on.
Exactly, but it's not 80s. No, nothing was 80s.
The
Not
new,
even Return of the
new
Jedi.
big rumbling thing that I'm seeing is that 90s show, and that's where the
Oh.
90s nostalgia is going
Oh,
to
Yeah.
start, because they're going to do the exact same thing that they did with that 70s show, and that's again for us. I could see them doing a Stranger Things spinoff that starts in the 90s, and they just do it all over again for the 90s.
And they managed to get it cool.
Yeah.
Imagine,
They could.
because Stranger Things kind of started the whole 80s comeback.
it'd been
kind of.
on
Really?
development for a while.
It
But-
contributed.
It
sure.
really helped to catch fire. I don't think it started it, but it helped to catch fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
Also,
Um,
fun fact about that 90s show. So there was less time between the release of that 70s show and the actual 70s versus that 90s show and the release of that 90s show. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Wow.
Because it was like maybe 20 years like for that 70s show, but I think it's 25.
I think that 70s show was it 99 or 98?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So it's about time, and I think everybody will look just about age appropriate, having grown up since then. But I'm curious about it. I know I'm gonna have to like reacclimate to all these new young actors, and then I watched that 70s show as a little kid, and so I looked up to those characters. Now I'm gonna be this old man looking back at my past. It's gonna be a very interesting experience for me.
Andrew, you're fine. Shush.
so
I want to hear
old.
this old man talk. You're fine. My goodness.
I'm surprised we haven't touched on bidets this week. That was like the.
I didn't think that was going to be
topic.
such a big thing, Dan. I hate to
Not required.
disappoint you, but sometimes there's just something that happens in my week, and then I just make a funny comment about it, and then I don't think about it for years after that. It just goes in the backlog.
People like that
I
segment.
actually talked to an old friend.
You know what else goes in the backlog? Sorry, I'm just. never
Oh.
mind.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
Don't.
Nope, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
let's
go
not
there.
do that,
You
Joe.
Continue.
But I was gonna
Continue.
say I ended up talking to like somebody, and he was like, I actually wrote this story. Do you mind if I read it to you? And he was like giving me like these dialogues. I was like, oh, this is funny. This kind of sounds familiar. Like I could definitely see myself saying this. And he was like, oh yeah, no, you did say it to me. It was just very weird, and I had to write it down. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but it's very uncomfortable.
my partner has a whole file on me. The weirdest thing I
yeah?
ever said. Oh yeah. I
Ooh.
once said
You should
having a
read that
big
aloud.
nose. No, let me say this. Having a big nose is a big responsibility because you have so much itch to scratch. And once
Oh.
Jenny said that, and I meant that. It's
That's-
I
bad.
appreciate it.
Wow,
Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird
that's
thing.
deep
Yeah.
in a
Is it-
not deep way.
I almost put in my bio if I was so curious. By
That
the
would be good.
way, I'm really proud of my bio, guys. I inspired from The Matrix interrogation scene. Yeah, Mr. Anderson and Agent Smith. So have a look at
Yeah.
that, by the way.
I haven't
Anything
seen. I haven't read
did
through it
wrong.
yet, honestly.
No.
I was just gonna say though. I mean, bidets. I mentioned to you guys the other day. They come in so many forms. There's like the handheld. There's the detached. There's like the built-in. There's the automated kind. I'm literally trying to wedge it in because without bidets, what would open mic sessions really be?
I mean, we can change it if you want, Dan. Like it's not that big. If you want, I can literally I write random things on my hands all the time. I can just give you one and we can change it out. It's as easily replaceable as a bidet.
Oh,
All right.
See
we
what I
do
did
have
there?
some commenters here. That's kind of neat and new. What are we
Yeah.
saying here? Why did that 80s show flop? For a lot of reasons. For a lot of reasons.
Yeah, it
pull it
wasn't
up.
connected to the OG That 70s
It
show. and people
was.
were
It
upset.
was tangentially, and it was actually Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia playing
Yep.
Eric's cousin.
You're right. You're
And
right. Yes.
It was just a weird show, and I think part of what we liked about that 70s show was we'd grown to really enjoy the characters, and to introduce a completely new dynamic with new people and not just replicate it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Flop.
It was just a lot of archetypes that we've seen before, especially off the show that they were trying to make a sequel of. So it was,
Yeah, and I think it's smarter to go into this thinking like we are gonna bring back the characters that you like. They have kids, but we're gonna see how they've grown too. We're gonna see how they go through the 90s. And I will say, in that 70s show, which ran simultaneously with that 80s show for a little bit, if you remember, they do flash forward a little bit in some episodes where they've got Fez at all the different high school reunions playing.
yeah.
On the synthesizer with the flock of seagulls haircut. Like they took care of that. And I like that 70s show a lot. I watched, and I don't know, we have one guy not coming back. We have Danny Masterson staying basically in court. But that formula has worked so well of all those actors, which is why a bunch of them actually did cameos on The Ranch on Netflix. And that was just basically like, let's see what these people, it's always that group. They just have really good chemistry.
Yeah. Mags,
Okay.
you watched that 70s show, right?
No, I haven't.
No, you
it's great.
haven't?
It's great.
I
You should.
haven't.
Good show. Well, Andrew,
I'm busy.
Okay, that's fair.
I have 7 projects and podcasts, so it's
Fair. Well,
yeah. I don't know
Andrew,
how
let
I
me ask
managed
you
to
this.
take half a day
No, I
off
watched
for
the 70s
Stranger
show. I
Things,
watched
but-
MASH.
Roland, what are you trying to ask me?
I know. I keep trying to do it, but I was gonna say with a big problem that people have with that 70s show, and Dan, you can chime in if you want to, was Hyde's character at the end. They thought the writing was terrible for the last season because it was.
Well,
Do you think that they'll give Hyde a redemption, or how do you think they're going to play Hyde's character for that 90s show? Do you think they're just not going to mention it?
Honestly,
they're going to give him a worse character?
There's a lot of things that they need to sort of cover up. They recast Eric's sister when the actress died.
True.
We don't even know if his sister's going to make an appearance in that 90s show. They could easily write out Hyde and say he moved across the country, he did something, he died, got drafted. We don't know. Like there's so many different things that could happen. And he as a character, he was a real wild card. You know, he was the guy who introduced
like
him.
Eddie.
Like kind of, but I mean, like his dad was a convict, and he was probably, if we do just some logical thinking, probably the reason that they're all smoking in the basement.
For sure.
So he was
the rebel guy, conspiracy theorist guy,
kid, and he's just sort of this wayward guy who could end up anywhere. So it would be an easy thing to write, to say like he ended up in this weird place. And should anything, should he be found not guilty? Should anything happen where they think, you know what, we can actually, tastefully bring him back? It would be a reunion worth watching, because he was a great character. True.
Dan, what do you think? You want to?
The 70s show?
We were talking about the Hyde character, and I mean, Andrew did a really good explaining of it, so I guess you kind of missed your chance. So let's think of
no, because I don't have much to say, honestly, about the 70s show. Like, it's not...
Dance into 80s. Look at the jacket he's wearing.
Fair.
Yeah, really.
I'll put it up again. Sorry, let me find the glasses, too.
Important. Yeah, we need those.
Yeah, no,
glasses on glasses action.
Remember, this is not like I just bought a Halloween costume. I had to do some research. I had to find these pieces and put together the whole look.
Where did you get that jacket? Be honest.
It's a certain place that has a smile on their logo, and they have a lot of variety. And let's just say I spent a lot more money on this than you'd probably think I did.
Of course you did.
Yeah. There was a faux leather option, then there was a real leather option, and I went with the real leather, baby, because I'm like...
By the way, Roland,
when you've got a name like Jabroni, like a call sign like Jabroni, you gotta go all out. That's right.
But I must say, we all put an effort. Like, Roland has his background. I'm wearing my obviously most favorite T-shirt. Dan made the whole thing. Andrew, what's your excuse?
Yeah.
Excuse for what? What?
What's your T-shirt?
What's your T-shirt?
Gray.
This is outrageous.
I make a point of only wearing shirts. I wear shirts with no text. I can endorse color. I like color. I have one shirt that says pants on it because pants are something I can get behind. I don't like using my body as advertising space for other things. I like colors.
Wait, Roland's using his background.
Yeah.
Can we just say?
He is.
So
he is. I will communicate where I'm from with my background, and I will. Otherwise,
I'm also communicating. Are you saying I'm not communicating where I'm from?
Yes, I don't think you're from the. Well, you are. You're not rolling upside down.
Oh, that's a good point. I guess you're right.
Yeah, looks like I
don't know. I mean, Mags. I think Mags is lacking in that department.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I am. But it's pitch dark here, guys. There's nothing to see, and yeah, I know the green screen. Are we still on that? I really need one, don't I?
It would help.
But as you know, I'm going traveling, guys. I need to be able to fit it in like this backpack. No, slightly bigger.
This one folds up pretty
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk to producer Jabroni. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about next week, because I think we got to start wrapping things up about now.
Yeah.
And before we do, to everybody watching, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and keep commenting. You could end up being the comment of the week next week on the pre-show.
This is true.
We love interacting with our fans. You can follow us on Instagram and see our little clips. And yeah, we are loving watching this show and making the show.
We're not done yet. You're making it sound like the show is over.
No, we got to preview what's happening next week, because next week is going to be even better than this week.
Oh,
that's right.
Oh yes, I forgot we're doing this. I completely forgot. I'm so excited. Okay, sorry. I got.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled.
Love, Death, and Robots.
We are talking about Love, Death, and Robots, which means I'm going to have to watch everything that
2 hours
this season.
2 hours. Okay.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty like bite-sized, and it's good.
I honestly, like, there's room for good and bad in Love, Death, and Robots. But it sounds like this is a pretty strong season with really good directors. So we're gonna dive deep into how stylistically these fit into the director's work and how auteurism works in Love, Death, and Robots, which should be an interesting, highly conceptual, intellectual talk. You'll see how smart we all are. That's a reason to tune in for sure.
I'm going to use some big words.
Yeah, as many as I can find. The biggest we've got. What else? Is that all? Or just Love, Death, and Robots?
Well, we're going to talk about auteur storytelling, man. Like, we're going to talk about the directors who most leave their mark on a movie. One of the comments we got, I'm not going to be able to put it on screen, but one of the comments that we got on YouTube in the last week was for the Batman review that we did. And this particular person really hated the movie for some reason.
The Batman?
I'm speculating because he didn't specify. He just said the movie was trash, the Batman. And he said that, hey, they should have just let David Fincher direct it. And David Fincher is one of those guys that, hey, you watch a David Fincher movie, you know it's a David Fincher movie. There's no confusion there. Not to say Matt Reeves isn't an auteur, but yeah.
Okay.
I guess because it's going for like a detective route for the Batman. I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't
you know
a
what?
Great movie. Trash is harsh, but it wasn't fantastic.
The two biggest auteurs of their respective times, I think, are Christopher Nolan and Stanley Kubrick. You know, and they're both worked for the large part of their careers at Warner Brothers, but not, you know, regardless of where they produce their films, the fact of the matter is these two guys are looked at as, like, if you talk about auteurs by definition, I think those two names are amongst several, but to me at least, those names come to mind. So I'd really love to kind of like dive into those guys and have a conversation about what makes a Christopher Nolan film a Christopher Nolan film. What makes a Kubrick film, you know, a film that, you know, you're like, oh yes, that's Stanley Kubrick directed that.
I mean,
because both of those guys have done a movie in like every genre you can imagine.
Chris Nolan has not made as many films as Tarantino. Or maybe as Tarantino, but as Scorsese is bigger.
There's a
Are
lot
you sure about
and
that?
Fritz Lang. We can go all the way to Fritz Lang or Hitchcock.
There's
not necessarily.
There's a lot of auteurs. There's a lot of directors to cover. It honestly sounds like we have a lot of ground to cover. It should be an interesting talk. So I'm excited for it. I'm going to be bringing probably Wes Anderson, Tim Burton to the table, because that's some real overt storytelling and stylism. Let's say that's a word.
We're talking style, Edgar Wright. That's me. Continue, Andrew.
Yeah, no.
Nice.
It sounds like we all have some different tastes. If you're watching, maybe you have some different tastes. Join in the conversation. We love having the comments. And I don't know. Is there anything else before we sign off and say goodbye? Because
we're good.
Be our friend. Follow us, find us, listen to us, see us next week. Become part of the conversation if you are so inclined. Because that's what this is about. This is about satisfying our curiosity, learning about yours, and figuring out how we can understand a little bit more about how culture is shaped by movies, how our minds are shaped by movies, and how excellent it is to be in this age of entertainment. That's all I have to really say.
That was poetic. I love that.
Thank you. I think that's it for the show for now. But have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
But before we leave
everyone.
you, we do have the Ray Liotta tribute for you guys.
That's
and that
right.
was one of those. We wanted to save it to the end because, well, Ray Liotta is, you know, a legendary actor, somebody who we all have probably seen in at least a number of projects. I remember him from The Goodfellas, and I'm sure you guys can point to Field of Dreams, among others. So his passing of, you know, So you never see it coming. It's never a good thing. It's always unexpected. It's a tragedy, quite frankly. And we would love to pay homage to the good fella that is gone too soon. And the whole team put an effort into this, so we all pay our respects. Also memorable with Ray Liotta. Let's take a look, and we would love to hear your thoughts on the show overall. And then, of course, next week we're back. But guys, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Abandoned on the doorstep of a Newark, New Jersey orphanage in 1954, a 6-month-old infant would soon be adopted by a second-generation Italian-American and his wife, and grow up to be the good fella and great actor, Ray Liotta. 6 months out of college, the acting student from the University of Miami found himself in New York with an agent and with a recurring role on the soap opera Another World. When Los Angeles lured him toward a career in film, his first supporting role came with a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor in Something Wild, and more offers to make a subtle yet intense impact on audiences, touching them with the resurrection of Shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams.
If you build it, he will come.
However, it was in the 1990s that Liotta became synonymous with entanglement in crime, corruption, and fury. Martin Scorsese's gangster epic Goodfellas cast him as the lead, mirroring the audience's initial infatuation and ultimate alienation from the world of the Brooklyn Mafia.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
His performance solidified his place in the on-screen world of mobsters, later narrating Inside the Mafia, The Making of the Mob, and eventually portraying the twin brothers who spawned the Sopranos crime family in The Many Saints of Newark. The man who by this time had discovered his biological family was largely Scottish, even went on to dazzle as Frank Sinatra in The Rat Pack. Exploring roles scattered throughout the murkier waters of the law, he played a number of corrupt law enforcement officials, good cops, bad cops. And voiced the protagonist in the video game Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Ray Liotta's later years came with a self-awareness and gracious humor, appearing alongside the likes of SpongeBob, Phineas and Ferb, and the Muppets. Liotta's characters beg the question of what makes a man good or evil.
You look just like Mommy when you smile.
And his ability to convincingly walk on either side or meander across that line is a testament to the depth of insight he had into the decisions people make, the people they associate with, and the stories they tell.